Welcome, my friends. Kick back and listen to some nice tunes.
Fascination set into motion, a swell of grace immersed in love. The only place where all that surrounds you loses control. I'm captivated by another dimension. I've never felt this way before. I'm captivated by a love never ending. This is what's fighting for. My soul's awakening, energy I can't contain it. Life has been invigorated in total surrender. Oh, oh, oh. I'm captivated by another dimension. I've never felt this way before. I'm captivated by a love never ending. This is worth fighting for. I'm captivated by another dimension. I've never felt this way before. I'm captivated by a love never ending. This is what fighting for. I'm captivated by another dimension. I've never felt this way before. I'm captivated by a love never ending. This is what fighting for. This is what I'm finally here in your presence, where the noise of this world will fade. Now to be close to my Savior, a mystery that I can't explain. Lifted up from the ashes into your everlasting arms, where love will last forever, last forever. You are the light in the darkness, you are the hope to the hopeless, and I will not be afraid, not be afraid. You've taken life to the highest high, and no more down in the valley. Just to know that you are near shows your loyalty. Lifted out from my weakness into your glorious light, the light that shines forever.
Welcome, my friends, to our ranch AGFC, the place where we like to be. The electronic pub doors are open. Come on in, grab a seat, grab your favorite snack, your favorite drink. Your boy Brian's going to be coming on in just a sec. Get out of that and get out of that. And there he is. Hey, hey, hey. Welcome, my friends. Today is Sunday. We all know what that means. It's a little bit of the Word Bible study with our good friend Mystic22222. You just give me a message 1 minute. You need a minute, Mystic? Okay, yeah, apparently he needs a minute. I was about to bring him aboard, but apparently he's got some technical difficulties going on, which is okay, because we're used to that here at our ranch AGFC. This live stream's been diluted with technical difficulties every single week, but that's all right. We conquer it, right? We conquer it. We come together and we say a word of prayer, our Lord in heaven. Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, Father, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Well, my friends, Mystic22222 should be back in just a moment. Let's stay tuned. Let's not. Everybody just kind of kick it. So how's everybody's weekend been? I hope it's been blessed. Of course, here at our ranch, AGFC, we're always blessed. We go through our times. Christine, my poor baby, she's got a migraine that's just killing her. Oh, she's covering her eyes up because my studio lights are on, and there we go, my friends. Let me introduce our speaker tonight, Mystic22222. Here we go. How are you, my friend?
Better than everybody else. I've been spending most of the week taking care of everybody else's sick.
Hi.
Hi. Everybody's
Our
been
weekends have
sick.
been bad.
Oh,
only thing
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, when her coughing spell starts going off, she's going to have to leave because it's nonstop. It's like a 5 packs a day cough.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that, sweetheart.
And I'm going crazy.
And nobody seems to be responding to the medications. Cough medicines don't work. Headache medicines don't work.
And we're all coughing
Do
left and right. Yeah, it's tangled up.
Does any of them have bad asthma?
No, it's
That's a good thing.
It started with a new kind of strep going around. It doesn't attack the throat, it attacks the bronchial tubes.
I don't know what I had, but it totally just disrupted my trachea,
yeah,
and my larynx. It disrupted my voice.
yeah.
I was almost so hoarse I couldn't talk.
Yeah. Well, I just had a little mild chest congestion. Everybody else got, well, this one had a blister the size of a large pea on her tonsil.
No. Yeah.
It was actually a pit, and then later it kind of coated over with something white. Started looking like a canker sore, and
Got to run
body.
antibiotics.
No, I'm not sure what it is because, like I said, one of us came back with a strep culture. I got that from somebody, but it was so mild on me. It was little more
Yeah.
than an allergy. Um, and then and then there's all the symptoms of a flu. And then their father is convinced that he's got COVID because he can't smell or taste anything at all, and that's never happened to him, even with the common cold.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just gave him some ivermectin, and we should see within 6 hours how that helps. If it helps him the way it did me.
It's still not helping him, Grandpa.
It hasn't been 6 hours. I only gave it to him an hour and a half ago.
And also, our lips have been very dry.
Blistered, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, our lips have been getting very crinkly.
Yeah, and red. I mean, they look like they got carried away with the
That's
lipstick.
some dehydration going on. That's
Yeah, there's that
dehydration.
too. Yeah.
But I've been drinking lots of water.
Well, that's good, sweetheart. You keep it up. You drink all
And
the
putting
water
less
you can.
on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so
Because
happy to be in this show with you guys. Take this. And listen to what my grandpa has to say. And to what all
so,
you guys
Mystic,
have to
where do we
say.
want to start this weekend?
Well, we are actually finishing up. Okay, remember we finished.
We
We
pretty
actually
much finished
finished.
Revelations.
We finished Revelation.
No, take it.
And so then, as I said last week, my plan to this week is to do the same kind of overview with the Bible, but a lot more efficiently.
Okay.
Um,
So we
this
starting
is
from the beginning,
yes, and ending at the end.
ending at the end. Okay.
Yeah. So this is the exact same team called the Bible Project. The same kind of illustrations. It's a bit
Okay.
shorter than the other was. And then after that, I have a fly around the Holy Land, a virtual fly around.
Ooh,
Cool.
I want to see that, Grandpa.
And it's not just a fly around what is or what was. It actually breaks it down into each of the major ages, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, and so forth.
Yes.
So basically,
Wow.
this is the Bible's view of the entire 7,000 year history of the world from creation to the end of the age, as the prophets call it, when then the old heaven and earth are reset before creating the new.
Cool.
This is important.
One
This
moment.
is important.
Let me
Yeah, go ahead.
let me welcome Wild
Sure.
Dreams with Jimbo.
Mhm.
Thank you, Jimbo. Welcome. So go ahead, Mystic.
Okay, so this is important for anyone wanting to read and understand the Bible and God's vast eternal plan because it's the missing context within which everything else in the Bible and human history can be understood. Without it, it seems like nothing but a string of or series of chronological but otherwise unrelated events with a few observational philosophy books like Psalms and Proverbs and the temple ordinances for priests thrown in the middle of it.
Okay.
After watching these two, oh, by the way, let me post them for you. After watching these two brief illustrated narratives and commentaries, you'll then be able to read the Bible with the background context to understand the deeper meanings that usually take a lifetime to get the gist of.
Yeah, trust me. I mean,
Don't
I
ask me how
know.
I know. All right.
Ooh, I can't wait to watch these.
I was going to send these to you ahead of time, but I got a little sidetracked because I'm trying to find a browser that will function with room spare on this laptop, and Firefox is the only one that even will connect.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'm using
so here's the first.
Microsoft Edge myself. Okay.
Yeah,
Oops.
that is the
Hold on.
least trustworthy.
Oh, Grandpa,
Hmm.
I have a question. For my new house, can I take this stuff?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me get out of that. Okay, I don't need that open no more.
Guess what? Me and my sisters are aunties now. We have a baby nephew.
Yes.
Well,
We have a baby
congratulations.
His name's
Congratulations.
Angel. His name's
All right.
Angel.
And
And he's so adorable.
Now we just have to figure out if he's
No.
Seraphim or Serabim.
copy link, Brian. Okay, get it right. Okay,
I think
now I'm
he's a
going to
zebra.
share this with the audience. There's that for the chat. So, Jimbo, you got that link. You can look it up yourself whenever. And let me get this shared. Close that.
And I'll go ahead and post the other one for you too.
I really want to watch it. I can't wait.
It's good.
It is? It's
Mhm.
fun?
Yeah.
Then
It's-
I want to watch it.
It's fun because it's so eye-opening.
Eye-opening. It makes my eye big.
Yeah. And your
Here
jaw
we
drop.
go. Okay,
No, it's not
Jimbo, here we go.
that. Okay.
If you open a Protestant Christian Bible and look at the table of contents, you'll notice the first 3 quarters is a collection called the Old Testament. If you look at the list of books, you'll see it's made up of 39 smaller works that are grouped into 4 main sections. The first 5 are called the Pentateuch, followed by the historical books, then the poetic books, and finally the books of the prophets. Now that seems simple enough, but actually it's more complicated and way more interesting. This arrangement of the books in a single volume called the Old Testament is a later Christian tradition that developed after Jesus and the apostles. In ancient Jewish tradition, these works were all on separate scrolls and were conceived of as a unified 3-part collection called Tanakh. It's a Hebrew acronym for Torah, which means instruction, Nevi'im, which means prophets, and Ketuvim, which means writings. The Tanakh has the same books as the Protestant Old Testament, but they're arranged differently. The Torah corresponds to the Pentateuch, but the prophets consist of 4 historical narrative books and then the 15 works named after specific prophets. After this comes the writings, a diverse collection of poetic and narrative texts. Now this 3-part design is really, really old. It's referred to in ancient Jewish texts like the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Wisdom of Ben Sira, even Jesus of Nazareth mentioned it. And that's because this 3-part shape is woven into the compositional design of the scrolls themselves. If you pay attention, you'll discover that every scroll has been coordinated by means of cross-references that link each work into the larger 3-part collection. So, who put all these scrolls together? It was a long process. Some of the famous contributors are named, like Moses or David, but most of the authors remain anonymous. In the Bible, they're simply called scribes or the prophets. These scrolls took shape throughout Israel's history as generations of prophetic scribes collected earlier stories and poems, integrated them into larger compositions, and then eventually shaped all this material into the unified library of scrolls, the Tanakh. It's clear from texts in the Psalms and Prophets that these prophetic scribes believed that God's Spirit was guiding this whole process, so that through these human words, God speaks to his people. That's why they treasured these texts, studying and composing them into a unified collection. We don't know when precisely this process was finished, but it was somewhere in the last centuries before the time of Jesus. In its final shape, the Tanakh offers a prophetic interpretation of Israel's history that claims to reveal God's purposes to rescue the whole world. And while we can't do justice to the whole collection in one video, it's helpful to get an overview of what these scrolls are all about. The Torah begins with God creating and blessing a great piece of real estate, our very good world. And God entrusts it to a creature that reflects the divine image, human, or in Hebrew, Adam. God appoints humanity to rule the world as kings and queens of creation. And the question is whether they will trust God's wisdom to discern good and evil, or seize autonomy and define good and evil for themselves. But there's another creature with the humans, a mysterious snake. It's in rebellion against the Creator, and it dupes the humans to foolishly rebel against God's generosity. As a result, humanity is separated from its divine source of life and exiled from a garden of blessing to die in a dangerous wilderness. From there, humanity keeps spreading and redefining good and evil, and things go downhill fast. They build cities plagued by violence and oppression, all leading to the foundation of a city called Babylon, where people exalt themselves to the place of God. And now the basic plot conflict of the whole Bible is set. God wants to bless his world and rule it through humans. But now, humans are the problem. They're under the influence of evil, they're stupid and short-sighted, and headed for self-destruction. And this is all a setup for God's solution. We need a new kind of human. And so God promises that a new human will come, who won't give in to the snake. In fact, he'll crush it and be crushed by it. From here, the story traces the promised lineage to a man and a woman, Abraham and Sarah. God entrusts them with the same divine blessing given to humanity on page 1. And so they leave Babylon to a new garden-like land that God promises to give his family. What follows is the story of Abraham's family. 3 generations, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, followed by 12 sons. And our hopes are high until we read their very dysfunctional and destructive family story. They lie, cheat, nearly kill each other, not to mention the sex scandals. But what did you expect after the garden story? They're humans. Eventually, Abraham's family ends up exiled down in Egypt. All these failures of Abraham's family form a dark background for the handful of bright moments in the story. God stays committed to these people. He even makes them an eternal promise called a covenant, that he will rescue and bless all humanity through them. How exactly isn't clear, but Abraham's family is at its best when they stop their selfish scheming and trust God's promise with radical faith. From here, the family grows. They end up enslaved in Egypt, and we're introduced to the Torah's other main character, Moses. God raises him up to rescue the Israelites and bring them to a mountain where they're all invited into a covenant relationship with God. They're given 613 terms of the relationship, guidelines for becoming new kinds of humans who will faithfully represent God to the world. And Moses brokers this whole deal because he's awesome. He's the ultimate prophet who speaks God's word to Israel. He's a priest who represents them before God. And he's even called a king, Israel's leader and deliverer in time of need. But as the Torah progresses, the Israelites...
Wasn't it true that Moses, I heard, when born, glowed?
I've never heard that, and it's not in the scriptures that I've ever seen. No, he glowed when he went up onto the mountain, and he was with God for a certain period of time. When he came back down, he had to hide his face because he was all embarrassed from the glowing face.
Okay.
That's the only thing about glowing that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Israelites fail big time. They violate the covenant, and even Moses rebels against God. In fact, the Torah ends with Moses predicting that Israel's failure will continue as they go back into the promised land, and they're going to end up in exile once again. But he has hope that God will fulfill his promise to rescue Israel. One day he will cover for their failures. He'll heal their selfish hearts so they can truly love God and live. And then Moses dies. Now, the final sentences of the Torah scroll are surprising. They zoom forward in time, and we hear from the prophetic scribes who shaped the Tanakh. They reflect back on the story of Moses from their vantage point, and they tell us that never again in Israel's history did a prophet like Moses arise. Man, I wish another prophet, priest, king like him would come along. And with that, we move into the Nevi'im. It has 2 sub-collections. First, the former prophets, 4 narrative works about Israel's story in the Promised Land, told from the later perspective of the prophets. Things start great with Joshua's leadership. We're told he's successful because he's just like Moses, and he meditates on Scripture day and night. But eventually, even Joshua fails, beginning Israel's long and violent descent into self-destruction, just like Moses and the garden story anticipated. These stories mostly focus on the failure of Israel's kings, prophets, and priests, how they lie, cheat, and kill each other, and worship idols. It's basically a longer, bloodier replay of the ancestors' failures. But there are some bright spots. God reaffirms his covenant promise to bless humanity through a new human. It will be a king from the line of David. And you get some stories about people like David or Solomon who have moments like Abraham when they trust God, but it never lasts. And wouldn't you know it, the family of Abraham ends up right where they began, conquered and exiled in Babylon. But remember, this whole story is being told from the later perspective of the prophets, and they know exile isn't the end. So they designed these stories of Israel's past as pointers to their future hope. When God does rescue his people out of Babylon, he'll send that new king who will be like Moses and David and Solomon were on their good days. In fact, this is what the second part of the Nevi'im, the latter prophets, is all about. There are 3 large and 12 short works connected to specific prophets. And this design intentionally recalls the 3 plus 12 ancestors from Genesis whose stories of failure contained the seeds of future hope. These prophetic scrolls are loaded with cross-references that link back into the narrative of the Torah and the prophets, and they carry the story further. The job of Israel's prophets was to be like Moses, to accuse the old Israel of failure and corruption, and to warn them about the looming result, the great day of the Lord, which ended with defeat and exile in Babylon. But the prophets also promised that God had a purpose, to purify his people and recreate a new Israel who would be faithful like Abraham was. They'll live in a new covenant relationship with God under the reign of that promised ruler, who's described as a new Moses, but called by the name David. He will be the one to restore God's blessing to the entire world. The conclusion of the Nevi'im is just like the Torah. There's a note from the Tanakh's prophetic scribes. They reflect back over the whole story so far, and they urge readers to anticipate the arrival of a new Moses-like prophet, who they call Elijah. He will announce the arrival of Israel's God to purify and save his people. From here we move into the Tanakh's third and final sub-collection, the Ketuvim, a diverse collection of scrolls. Each one has been designed to link back into the key themes from the Torah and the prophets and develop them further through an elaborate tapestry of cross-references. For example, the Psalms scroll is introduced by 2 poems that are coordinated to the beginning of the Torah and the prophets. In the first psalm, we meet the righteous one, who's described as a new Joshua, a successful leader who meditates on the scriptures. He's like the king promised by Moses, and he's like the eternal tree of life in the Garden of Eden. Psalm 2 then identifies this figure. It's the promised king, the Son of God from the line of David, who's going to defeat evil among the nations and restore God's blessing to the world. And the rest of the Psalm scroll teaches God's people how to pray as they wait for this future hope. Then there are the wisdom scrolls that address some of the most difficult questions raised by the story of the Torah and the prophets. So Proverbs sounds like Moses in the Torah. Trust in God, be faithful and obedient, and you'll have peace and success. But then Ecclesiastes and Job reflect back on Israel's complicated history and say,
Especially Job.
we tried that, and it's not that simple. These 3 books carry on a profound conversation about what it means to live wisely in God's good and often confusing world. 2 of the last books of the Tanakh to be written make a crucial contribution. The Daniel scroll looks back over the long history of Israel's failure and suffering as a strange door of hope into a new future for the world. One day, that new human promised in the Torah and prophets will arrive. He's going to be trampled by humanity's animal-like inclinations towards evil, but then God will vindicate him and raise him up to rule the world in divine power.
Amen.
And finally, the Scroll of Chronicles retells the entire story of the Tanakh, from the beginning up to Israel's return from exile. The author focuses on God's promise to David of a future king who will reunite God's people in a new Jerusalem and bring divine blessing to the nations. The final lines of the Chronicles scroll have been coordinated with key texts from all over the Tanakh. They keep alive the hope of an ultimate return from exile, pointing to the arrival of an Israelite whose God is with him, that he may go up and restore the new Jerusalem, and that's how the story ends. The Tanakh is a majestically and intentionally designed collection of ancient Hebrew scrolls. These diverse texts from all periods of Israel's history have been woven together as a unified story about God's covenant promise to Israel and to all humanity. They were made for a lifetime's worth of reading and reflection, as these remarkable human words offer a divine word of wisdom and future hope that still speaks today.
Wow.
Mhm. Now, they made a very important point. All those books referencing of each other
Uh huh.
makes the Bible the world's very first hypertext linked document.
Yes. Yeah. The way it was broke down made me realize very strongly in my heart, my spirit, how much God so loved this world.
Yes. Well,
how much he wanted his blessings upon his people. How much he wanted
pile
this
on
to
top,
work. This experiment, this whole thing, whatever it is, it's
pile on
God's.
top, pile on top of that
It's
the pain he was willing to go through.
as a Christian, I've learned a long time ago. I am only a small part in this whole plan of God's, and it's all God's. And for some reason, He so loves us in this world. I am still boggled by it. Why He would want to care,
Because he knows what he designed us to become later on.
but we're not becoming it.
Yeah,
We're
we
not
are.
doing it.
We just don't recognize it. What this first phase is to settle our character so that he knows that he can trust us with the power he will entrust us with later.
Jungle Ghost Survival. Welcome, my friend. How are you? It's been a minute. I hope you caught a little bit of the first segment. It was very interesting, very informative. Broke it down to where it made me realize some things that. But we're going to get into the second part
Yeah.
in just a second. Let me get this link pulled up.
And with all that hyperlinking, you look at Revelation, and the Revelation can only be understood in terms of hyperlinking to all those other texts. It's meaningless
Yep.
without it.
Right. It's all hyperlinking.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get into this. Here we go.
The New Testament. If you open up a Bible to its table of contents, you'll see it's made up of two large collections, the Old and New Testaments. The word testament refers to a covenant partnership, which is what both of these collections are all about. They tell one epic and complicated story of God's covenant partnership with Israel and all humanity. The Old Testament is called Tanakh in Jewish tradition. It's a unified scroll collection of 39 Israelite texts that were over 1,000 years in the making. In contrast, the 27 books of the New Testament all came into existence within 30 to 40 years of each other. They were all written by first-generation followers of Jesus. From an early period, Christian communities began collecting these texts and reading them alongside the Old Testament as one unified story that leads to Jesus. The New Testament begins with 4 narrative books that together are called the Gospel. They tell the story of Jesus of Nazareth's life, death, and resurrection as an announcement of good news. They're followed by a 5th narrative work called Acts of the Apostles. Here, the risen Jesus commissions the apostles, a word that means the sent ones. They're appointed as Jesus' representatives to spread the good news about him throughout the ancient world. After Acts comes a collection of letters from the apostles. These were written to provide teaching and guidance for local communities of Jesus' followers called churches. There are 13 letters connected to the Apostle Paul, and they're not arranged in the order of when they were written, but rather from the longest to the shortest. Then there's the letter to the Hebrews, written by a close but unnamed associate of the apostles. After this are the letters of James, Jude, Peter, and John. 2 were brothers of Jesus, and 2 were among his first followers. The last New Testament book is the Revelation, a letter to 7 churches that reveals a prophetic word of challenge and comfort to all of Jesus' followers. So those are the books of the New Testament, but what are they about? And how do they connect with the Old Testament to make up one unified story? Think of it this way. The Bible is one long epic narrative with multiple movements or acts. The Old Testament recounts the first series of acts that give you everything you need to make sense of the story to follow. The core themes and the plot conflict are arranged in design patterns. And then in the New Testament, these are all picked up and carried forward to the story's culmination in Jesus. Let me show you what I mean. The first act is about God and all humanity. God provides a sweet garden temple for humans who are made to be God's partners in ruling the world. But the humans are foolish, and they give in to a dark temptation and rebel against God's wisdom. So they're exiled into a wilderness where they start killing each other. They build cities that spread their selfishness and oppression, leading up to the big bad city of Babylon. But God loves the world and its foolish humans, so he sets in motion a rescue plan by promising the arrival of a new human who will destroy the evil that has lured us into self-destruction. The next act of the biblical story is about God and Israel, and it develops the themes and patterns of the first act. God calls a new humanity out of Babylon into a sweet garden land. Abraham, Sarah, and his descendants, the Israelites. God promises that through them, divine blessing will be restored to all of the nations. Surely these are the new humans that we're waiting for, but the Israelites repeat humanity's rebellion against God, building their own violent cities that lead to self-destruction and another exile in Babylon. But God sustains his promise that the new human will come from Abraham's lineage. It will be a priest king who will now have to rescue both Israel and humanity from Babylon to restore God's blessing to the world. Now, notice how these two acts are designed according to the same pattern. The second act is a longer and more violent version of the first, and together they explore the tragic human condition, but they also highlight God's promise, which is developed more in the next act, the Old Testament prophets and poets. The prophets accused Israel and all nations of their evil, and they announced that one day God himself would arrive to bring the day of the Lord and deliver his world from Babylon. He would do it through a promised royal priest, who's going to suffer like a slave and die for the sins of Israel and all humanity, but then he'll be exalted as king over the nations. He will call others to leave Babylon and join the new covenant people, who will partner with God to rule over a new Jerusalem, that is, over a new creation. And so the Old Testament concludes by anticipating a new act in the story. And when you turn to the New Testament, it's the same story, now being carried forward in Jesus. Let's see how. The four gospel accounts introduce Jesus of Nazareth, both as the promised son of Abraham who will restore God's blessing to the nations, and also as that new human who will defeat evil and restore humanity to partnership with God. So Jesus is portrayed as a human, and more. He went about announcing the arrival of God's promised kingdom, and he spoke and acted as if he was Israel's divine king. But instead of calling himself king, Jesus referred to himself as the Son of Man, that is, the human one who would act like a servant. The Gospels are making the claim that in Jesus, Israel's God has become the faithful Israelite and the true human that we are all made to be but have failed to be. Jesus' mission was to confront that dark evil that lurks underneath humanity's evil, luring us into selfishness, violence, and death. But how do you defeat that kind of evil? The surprising answer in the Gospels is that Jesus overcame our evil by allowing it to kill him on his paradoxical throne, the cross, where Jesus died for humanity's evil and sin. And it's where he lived out what he taught, that nonviolence, forgiveness, and self-giving love are the most powerful things in the universe. And because God's love for his world is stronger than evil or death, Jesus was raised to new life as the prototype of a new humanity, and this brings us to the story of Acts. Through the Spirit, God empowers Jesus' followers to spread the life and love of Jesus out into the world as they invite people to leave their old humanity and join Jesus' multi-ethnic family, the new humanity. This is where the letters from the apostles fit into the story. Here the apostles address early Christian communities, and they show how the good news about the risen King Jesus changed history and should reshape every part of our lives. They also explained the good news by constantly appealing to stories from the Old Testament and the stories of Jesus, showing us how to see our own life stories as part of the epic biblical story. So all humanity is trapped in a Babylonian exile, but Jesus came to create a new home. We're all living in different kinds of Egyptian slavery to selfishness and sin, but Jesus died as the Passover lamb to liberate us into the promised land. Our old humanity is bound for the dust of death, but Jesus' resurrection opened up a new future for a new humanity.
Amen.
We live here in the current evil age, but through Jesus and the Spirit, a new creation has burst open here and now. And this leads us to the book of Revelation, where the whole biblical story comes together in powerful symbolism and imagery. Jesus is portrayed as a slaughtered, bloody lamb who is exalted as the divine king of the world. He's leading his people out of slavery and exile in Babylon, and as they resist Babylon's influence, they may have to suffer alongside their slain leader. But when you follow the risen king, not even death can prevent the dawn of the new creation, which is here depicted as a new Jerusalem garden temple, the true home of humanity after its long exile. And so on the Bible's last page, heaven and earth are reunited, and the new humans take up their appointed task from the Bible's first page, to rule the world together in the love and power of God. The New Testament is a remarkable collection of documents. They represent the testimony of the apostles that points us to the risen Jesus himself. And through God's Spirit, these human words have been speaking a divine word of hope from the 1st century to the 21st. Each book shows how God, through Jesus and the Spirit, is leading our world to its ultimate goal in a renewed creation. And so the story's end is really the beginning of a new story that is yet to be told. And that's what the New Testament is all about.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way he breaks that down. I really
Yes.
do. Thank you for sharing this with us, Mystic.
And at the
Thank you
same
very
time,
much.
binds it all up in a nice package complete with bow.
Yep, it sure did.
So now you have the textual context.
Uh-huh. The gist
Okay.
of, now we got, and the links are shared in the chat. So you guys have them available to you. And here, let's get this next one. There's that for the chat.
And to complete that context, we have a virtual fly-around view of Jerusalem to see how it began and evolved into Yarusalam, the city on the hill bearing Yahovah's name, and the geophysical reference point of all biblical prophecies. People are always looking for, the rest of the world in the biblical prophecies. And a lot of Americans, of course, are wondering, where is America? I mean, we're the biggest thing in the world, right? Where are we? But regardless of who's in charge of the world at the time, regardless of what empire is running, all prophecies are seen from the point of view of Jerusalem, of Israel.
Exactly.
So when you're reading through the Bible and you're reading about all these place names, many of which change over time,
yes,
it's very hard to visualize. What's amazing when you are watching videos by people who actually live there, who've lived there much of their lives, it's just astounding how small the world is in that area. I mean, in the Middle East. And
yes,
back in the day, I mean, up until a few hundred years ago, that was the whole world. They weren't even really aware of China,
the Americas, or China, or
even
Russia.
India. Yeah, they were aware that they existed, but they didn't mean anything to anybody.
Well, they weren't having access to them.
Yeah, because they couldn't relate to them. They were so far away. They got no news from them. They didn't even know they were that big.
Have you ever heard of in the Grand Canyon they found Egyptian hieroglyphs?
Yes.
And Egyptian artifacts.
Yes.
We
also have
quite a lot here.
Yeah, we also have quite a lot of Viking artifacts running up the Mississippi, but even before Eric the Red.
Okay, let's go ahead and get into this. This is the story. Jerusalem.
and sound effects that you can actually afford? Call 911. I'm home.
Just 10 years ago, Jesus was the best kept secret in
Let me show you how to create an amazing ad using stock footage. Go to artgrid.io. Look.
My apologies. fascinating.
Oh, yes. So let me say real quick to Jungle Ghost, we aim to please. No sooner said than done. There's your real pic photos.
Yep. Those were real GPS pic photos.
And I want to get back to you, Jungle Jim, but let me say a couple things first. So if you go back and look through that again, not today, but if you go back and look at those again, you will notice that the entire flattened mount, the temple mount, was originally flattened to the dimensions required to build the very first temple. And that temple was massive. The population was tiny. And as each empire overthrew and destroyed each temple, they built another temple, much smaller, but with a lot more people. And when they got down to the about 400 BC, when they were rebuilding the temple a second time, it was very small because they were under attack the whole time. The brick and mortar layers had to carry their arms. They had to shoot at the enemy while trying to pack bricks in. And it took a long time. It took a long time. They didn't get as much done as they would have liked to. But that's what they ended up with.
Dodging bullets while you're laying brick.
Well, flaming arrows. And so that's why Herod was trying to rebuild the temple, and actually did re-expand it towards its former glory, and didn't last very long.
Yeah.
And then when the archaeologists of modern day 20th century go in there and start digging, well, they know about where the temples are. As they go down the layers, they can see where the walls were, and then they realize, wait a minute, this huge thing is built on a much vaster platform of an even bigger building, and another bigger building before that, and before they know it, well, it's the size of a whole.
It is. It's the way that computer generated model put it all together.
Mm-hmm.
That took a while. You can tell that took a while.
Yeah,
that's that was a lot of programming put into that.
Mm-hmm. And where you paused it was where they were going to show you
a lot of programming, a lot of AutoCAD.
Yes. And that point where you paused it is where they were going to show you the models of the interiors of those temples. But let's address Jungle Ghost first. Those are very, very good points you're making, Jungle Ghost. All of those topics had been touched on the last several weeks in this series, the Sunday series, because they are prophecies that are coming to pass as we speak. And that's really what this was all about. Well, all of the rivers of all the world are drying up. The Ganges River, the Mississippi, they are all drying up, and everybody's losing power, and every major continent is losing its biggest shipping platform besides the oceanic ports. However, what makes the Euphrates different? Ground X-rays and radar have been used to find Noah's Ark, for example. What makes Euphrates unique is a prophecy that says before the river is completely dried up, there are 4 bound fallen angels that will be released to harass the world. Each of those angels we covered last week are the spirits that were in possession of the kings and the emperors that were so wicked over the last 4,000 years. The Grecian Empire, the Medo-Persians, the Babylonian, and each of those angels in turn was bound up at the Euphrates. In these days, as the river is drying up, an angel from heaven is sent to release these fallen rebel angels to cause havoc on the earth. That's what makes the Euphrates unique. Now, on the new peace agreement, there was before a division of Israel, and Jehovah's curse was that he divided that country. In today's latter-day prophets that we were promised, with young men seeing visions and old men dreaming dreams, the new message was, as it was before, because America, or the representatives of America, have been twisting Israel's arms to divide their country, and because they have done that, well, I will now divide America. And that is why you see the red and blue citizens separating into different parties. The blue all piled up in the cities and running the rest of the states, and the
American people
red,
are very divided.
yes, and the conservatives are splitting off from them, trying to live separately, very much outside their arbitrary lives, and massive exodus migrating to other states, and then the states are being redrawn. There was an earlier plan to counties of East Oregon and Northern California into one big state called Jefferson. This we also talked about last
They've been
weekend.
talking about for quite a while,
A long time.
splitting California into 3 different sections.
Yeah, back in the 60s when
states.
Central California, Sacramento was helping Southern California steal all the water from Northern California. We were talking about that. Now something changed, and I don't know what's happened to the state of Jefferson, which I'm supposed to be a part of, but only Eastern Oregon now is joining with Idaho to become the greater state of Idaho for the conservatives. Time to leave California.
California.
It was time some time ago. I had planned to. I tried to. I was afraid they were going to shut down the freeways. Instead, they took away our fuel. Now it's pretty much too late for many of them.
I don't know if Newsom's passed the bill. If you leave California, your taxes, they can tax you still.
They are doing that. Yeah, they did do that. They still want to tax
think
you.
about leaving California because your taxes is going to follow you.
And the United States is the only nation in the world that continues to tax its citizens when they've left for a foreign country. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I'm here. I'm down smack in the middle of it in Sacramento.
I managed to get my family to move to Northern California and the mountains before that actually happened, and we are awfully glad we did.
Yeah, probably this next year, year and a half, we'll see. But the family's been talking about selling our property.
Well, with what fuel?
With what fuel?
Yeah. Diesel's almost all gone. I'm not exactly sure why our prices up here dipped for a bit, and they're still dipped. But generally, I mean, we hit $5.50 a gallon before it dipped, and it was going towards $7 and $10 a gallon.
But no, we've been talking about selling the ranch.
Yeah.
And
to who? Sell it to who? The housing market's collapsing.
No, I'll be able to sell this. We'll be able to sell this place. Me and my family will be able to sell this place, no problem. I mean, we're sitting on an easy $900,000.
Our house is very beautiful.
That divided between me and my brothers and sister.
Yeah.
That's gonna be at least $200,000-$300,000 a piece. So we'll see what happens with that. That'd be enough money for me to find someplace. I'm thinking about Oregon, maybe Central or Bend, Oregon.
It's gotta be Eastern Oregon, the dry side.
The rest is
Yeah. The rest is.
I don't like the wet. I don't like the snow. I don't like you know, you're right. But yeah, there's got to be a Kaiser there, Kaiser Hospital.
Yeah. No, I'm just referring to the
Yeah,
fact that the rest of the state is lunatics worse than California's in some way.
I know. That's the inner city.
Well, cities and big
Uh,
cities in general.
Big cities in general. This is
Yeah.
true.
You have to remember, no matter
This
where you
is
live
true.
in California, you're still under California law.
Yeah,
You're still getting Californicated.
that Californicated, right?
That's stupid.
Mold County,
Country, mold country.
Mold
Yeah, we got,
Country.
yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah, on top
there's
of
my
that,
dyslexia for you.
no, on top of that, Northern California is also one of the most allergic places to be in the world. That's why you always hear us coughing, hacking, gurgling.
I have allergies all season long, all year long. I
Yeah,
got allergies.
yeah, that's because of the where we live. It's just that is the mid to northern state.
Well, it's good I haven't heard you coughing all night.
Well, I have my normal cough, my
I was
normal little bit
talking
of
about
congestion now and then.
I
Yeah.
was talking
No,
to the
I'm
little
well.
one behind you. I was talking
Oh,
to the
she's
little one behind you.
I
yeah,
was asleep.
yeah. They were both asleep.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Also,
good.
we have lots
You
of
need
goats.
rest.
He knows that. Yeah.
We got goats. We got goats, and their names are Jimmy, Jacob,
Yeah.
Bella, and Bambi.
Let's take that to the goat
All
channel.
right.
What goat channel?
This is not it.
California. California.
California.
Yeah.
Yes.
California.
Well, it's only the cities. Out here, I actually surprisingly trust the police, the city police, and the sheriff department.
Grandpa.
It's the highway patrol we worry about here.
Grandpa.
Yes,
Well,
I know.
This will make it to the chickens.
I I guess I live in a prominently blue ocean.
That's one of the things my
and
family always felt
and
was.
I stick out because I prominently wear my red tie,
Uh,
but
well, so does
you
Trump.
know, so does Trump.
You ever notice
Yeah.
that?
Oh, he proudly.
If
And I hope he runs again.
it's so long. If he unfurled it, he could use it as a lasso.
I hope he runs again because he was the one that was whipping this freaking country into shape.
He just announced he is running.
And I hope he wins. I'm proud to say that too.
She can't do it. I want her to look at the camera.
I'm not a
No.
I'm not I'm not I'm not a politician. I don't follow politics very much but I just seen the actions.
Yeah.
I've seen the actions. He's not a perfect man, no. Who is?
Neither was Nebuchadnezzar. God used him anyway.
He was Nebuchadnezzar. No. But well, listen, Mystic, I want to thank you again for this tonight. And this was so the way the presentation was very, very enlightening.
Well,
And
I
very
want to throw this
exciting.
in.
And
Yeah.
the last video was very captivating. It got me in. So thank you.
Okay, let me throw this in real quick. Since we're on the subject of politics, I don't understand. I think I do understand. I have a very strong hunch because it just makes perfect sense, really. I think that DeSantis and Trump are playing a public game where they're pretending to fight. I know Trump
Did that occur
trolled
to you
them.
too?
I know Trump trolled them into raiding Mar-a-Lago for one very simple reason. As long as he and DeSantis are both residents of Florida, they cannot run together on the same ticket.
Well, it was the last ditch. They can't stop reaching.
Yes.
They truly
And he
think
took
that they
advantage
can
of that.
find something, and he took advantage of it. And once again, exonerated.
Hmm.
Once again, so he's thrown his hat into the ring.
And he took advantage of that. You're welcome.
Wild Wild Dreams, Jimbo. You know what? You're welcome, brother.
Yeah. So he took advantage of their compulsive behavior and got them to raid Mar-a-Lago, which gave him the reason for leaving the state, which means now he can run with DeSantis. The question then will be who will lead.
Who moving out to Florida? Not
Trump.
me. I lived 5 years there in Fort Lauderdale, and I'll never go back. No. Florida is not for this boy. Interesting. But hey, Wild Dreams with Jimbo, thank you for coming out. Jungle Ghost Survival, thank you for coming out. I know there's been a couple more in the back, that haven't come into the chat, and that's okay. Thank you for being here. Thank you for viewing.
Faith says
Mystic
hi.
again.
Faith says
Thank
hi.
you again, Mystic. Faith says hi to hi. And
Hello, me.
Yeah, Jungle Ghost. That was how my family felt about moving out to the plains. We grew up on the ocean between in narrow rift mountain valleys, and when we get out away from the ocean and out onto flat land where you're exposed as far as the eye can see, you get a feeling of a weird kind of claustrophobia, like all that space is closing in on you.
well, you see, I grew up on an island. I grew up on Oahu.
Uh-huh.
I lived in Oahu for 8.5, almost 9 years.
Grandpa.
And
Yeah,
so you realize how small that island is and how isolated you are
Yeah.
after 8.5, 9 years.
Gives you a very special appreciation for real estate.
It
Also
does. It does.
Also for soil. It's hard to work with volcanic soils.
Thank you, Jungle Ghost. Thank you. And again, I wish you guys all good night and God's blessings to everybody.
Oh,
Got
by the
that
way,
right, Mystic.
My name's Hope.
So, with that said, my wife has got my dinner going, and I'm quite hungry. And I think this would be a good place to end this until next weekend. Hey, Mystic, I was gonna throw it your way, Mystic.
Throw it my
I was
way.
gonna throw something your way. What do you think about a Wednesday night stream?
I can do it. I'm retired. I'm on my own time.
Yeah.
Live stream for what? On what topic?
For this same topic, or what? Just a shoot. Get together. You can pick the topic.
Well,
I could come up with something.
Yeah.
Because my air gunning reviewing is coming to a quick halt.
Oh.
My compressor just died on me. It's dead.
Oh no!
Yeah.
You gotta replace. You gotta keep those hamsters fed, Brian.
Hey, I did all the maintenance on that Uber X ready here.
Runs a wheel.
Yeah, all the hamsters fed. I'm retired also. Yeah. I'm unfortunately I'm not retired. I'm just disabled.
Try to gently stretch.
But if I can get my, I got that reoccurring bulge coming back into my spine. And it's causing me some problems, and my air compressor just died on me, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm out of that game for a while. You got to have an air compressor. Yeah, it's just something you've got to have.
Jungle,
You're gonna
Jungle
need a
Ghost.
piece.
Jungle Ghost has
So I
cats
have
running his generator.
you got cats running his generator, huh?
Grandma,
Yeah,
we should get
well.
a water compressor. Can't we?
But
We have like 20.
no,
Not the
I
not the same kind.
I'm
Oh
gonna be in touch
no.
with Humorex tomorrow. Hopefully they can guide me on how to fix this thing.
Ah, well, it's an
It's
oil
it's all it's
compressor.
all electronic. It's all electronic. The compressor's not seized. The compressor works,
Grandpa,
but
look
the
at the chicken.
electronics are saying there's a sensor that is plugged into the piston area, the piston housing
Okay.
for temperature. Now it's
Well, that
saying
sounds
it's
like right
over.
up your alley.
So it's saying it's overheating, but it's
Look
been shut off for 2 days.
at the chicken.
Okay, so
I
that's a
plug it
thermostat.
in, and it says it's overheating. So it's a
Okay, so
thermostat.
that's yeah, no, a
It's a thermostat
thermistor.
issue.
Y-
Thermistor. It's a sensor.
Yeah. It's a
It plugs right into the side of the wall of where the piston housing is,
okay. So
and
that's an easy one. It's
not really,
what's
not really.
probably happened. What's probably happened is just that the wire is shorted, so it looks like infinite temperature.
Well, I'm gonna see if Umarex will send me one
Okay. A
because
thermistor.
I mean the thermistor, yeah.
Well, I would just
Because
find it first.
I can take the old one out and reinstall the new one.
Yeah. Well, I would just
As
open it
long as
up
it,
first, find it, and
I
ohm it out.
I already did.
Oh, what did it read?
I already, where did it read? It read
Yeah.
over temp. It says over temp.
No, I mean, how many ohms did the thermistor read?
Oh no, I haven't. I'm sorry, I haven't. I pulled the cover off to where the
Mhm.
thermistor is plugged in. I haven't pulled the thermistor out,
Yeah, but you can plug a
so I
DM
don't.
in. You can plug an ohm meter in there and find out what it's reading. You know, another thing you can do, find out what that thermistor should be, or put a pot on it, and then dial it in until you satisfy the electronics as a workaround. You can lie to the computer
Hand
and say
pump
it's okay.
time for PT. Yeah, you know what, Jungle Ghost? My hand pump took a dump on me 2 years ago. So
Yeah, he's too strong.
I don't even have a hand pump. I have a hand pump. It just don't work no more. I blew something out in it. So
Why are your nails pink?
I've got a cheap little tungsten. They call it a tungsten uh compressor that I had for 2 years, and it's dead. So I had this Ready Air for a year and a half now. Oh no, a little over a year, about a year and 3 months. It's got a 1 year warranty on it. My luck. A year and 3 months goes by and it breaks down on me.
Yeah.
Hope stop.
Now,
So
did it
Umarex,
ever
I
did it ever actually overheat when you were operating it normally?
no, no. So
So I think you could.
what happened was about a week ago I started hearing a slight little knock,
Uh huh.
thinking, okay, well the piston must be losing one of its seals.
Oh
So they send with the machine, they send a full piston repair seal kit.
yes.
So you can replace all the O-rings and all the seals in the piston. And I did that, and it's got a live charcoal filter, and I replaced that, and um, the knocking went away.
Mm-hmm.
I went and plugged it in, and it says over temp. And I'm like, what the hell is it? And it will not turn on.
Okay, so while
So
you were in there,
it's showing that it's overheating. It's
so
overheated
yeah,
and will not turn on.
So while you were in there replacing the seals, you probably accidentally crimped the wire and shorted it.
That could have been. That could have been. Yeah. Jungle Ghost. No, it's oil free and water free.
Oh, so you're using
The
grease.
Umarex Ready Air has no lubrication. It's designed completely lubricated free, air cooled only.
Which means it'll operate in any position without you can knock it over and it doesn't matter.
But for the last time, leave me alone.
You don't. I mean, you don't want to do that. No, of course not.
Yeah, but it won't hurt it.
But,
it won't hurt
it. So maybe freeze up the piston. No, the piston's free. It's not frozen. That's why I know it's not mechanical, because I can take an Allen wrench right into where the piston arm is. You know, the piston arm. I can take an Allen wrench right into there and turn that piston arm, and it rotates. It goes up and down. So the piston's free. I don't know what it's that sensor.
Yeah, I would just unplug the sensor and follow the wire back and check for crimps and use an ohmmeter to know when you fixed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you really need is to know, because I had a similar problem with my MakeBot when I was 3D printing, and one of the prints let go of the bed and it gummed up and it pulled the thermistor out of the heater block, and then of course the heater block went into overload, and all I needed to do was plug the thermistor back in.
There's one fuse. There's one fuse. It's a 40 amp fuse in the back, and it's fine.
Yeah, slow blow.
Yeah, it's that's the first thing I checked was that fuse in the back of the machine.
No, because if that fuse was gone, you wouldn't get any power at all. It wouldn't even wake up.
No, you see, it powers on. That's the thing. It powers on. The electronics power on. It powers on. The fan comes on. It just will not turn on.
Okay, stop.
Because it says over. It says over temp. So.
Yeah.
I've narrowed it down to that. That's my problem. And I just got to have Umarex USA send me out a new one.
Yeah, those thermistor wires are bare inside the sleeve, and it doesn't take anything to crimp them.
It's zip tied to another another wire that's plugged into the high pressure reservoir where the air is actually pumped into. And
because that's where the heat. That's where the heat comes from.
Yeah. So, okay, good advice. Good advice. I'll check into that more closely. Bad wire. That's what I'm thinking.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Hey, you guys, thank you again for this show. Mystic, you're a blessing to it. And Jungle Ghost Survival, thank you for coming out, my friend. And Jimbo, thank you for coming out. You guys have a good night. And I think this is where we're going to call it, okay?
Yep.
Because, Christy just looked at me again. So I got to go.
Okay.
And anyway, thank you again. And you guys have a wonderful night. God bless you. And we'll see you on the next one. Yeah, do you see that?
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Block user from YouTube. Thank you. Bye-bye.
We'll see you next time.
4:00 Wednesday?
Yeah. 4:00 Wednesday. How about that?
Okay. This week,
And
Jungle.
this week,
Wednesday
Jungle.
this week.
Wednesday this week, we're going to go live at 4 o'clock.
Yay!
Okay?
Yay!
So,
Early in the
Wild
morning?
Dreams with
4
Jimbo
p.m.
and Jungle Ghost Survival, my congregation, our congregation. You guys meet us here next Wednesday. This Wednesday. Okay?
Yep. Okay.
All right, guys. Again, from Christy and I here at our ranch AGFC, we want to thank you and God bless you, okay?
God bless you too.
All right. Good night,
Go have fun.
everybody. All right. Again, Jungle Ghost Survival, Wild Dreams with Big Jimbo, and my friend Mystic22222, and everybody else who's seen this, who will see this. I want to thank you. From Christy and I here at our ranch AGFC, we love you. We cherish every single one of you. So until next time, again, God bless you. Y'all know the rest.